What's going on, guys? Bengal again here, coming back at you with another video for the NFL 2021 season, also 2022 playoffs, of course. So if you guys are new here, appreciate you checking out the video. And if you don't like your team's record, which you can see pictured, you can feel free to leave a dislike to really make me feel it, really get back at me. So that's also an option, but I am going to be going over every team individually. I also will say, I think it's more about the overall record and placement in the division rather than a game-to-game basis, because we could look on paper and say, this team's better than this team. They're going to win. But it doesn't always work out that way, obviously. Games are not won on paper. They're won with 53 men on the field at one time. Not at one time, but back and forth. 22 men at one time. 53 men on each side overall. But, yeah, we're going to be talking about the AFC first and then moving over to the NFC and then, of course, the playoffs. A lot went into this, and I think there are a lot of teams that could be surprising, a lot of teams that could be very, very bad. But hopefully I at least get the order of these teams in the division correct. But the big thing is going to be injuries, COVID. We don't know what's going to happen. Injuries change teams. They change seasons. Because if Aaron Rodgers gets injured tomorrow, I'll tell you the Packers are not going 12-5. That's just how it is. If a team loses a big-time player at a big-time position, their record's going to change. So we don't know what's going to happen. COVID could change a lot of things. I mean, the Ravens and other teams fielded a practice squad team at times last year. The Broncos started at quarterback a practice squad wide receiver. Things happen. So these records could be super, super bad, but I'm pretty comfortable with where things are. So let's go ahead and talk about the Ravens. I have them at 12-5, and I think the Ravens are a pretty good team. I think they did get better in the offseason with pickups of Rashad Bateman at wide receiver. They did move Orlando Brown Jr. That's going to make their offensive line a little bit worse, but they're getting Ronnie Stanley back from injury. So getting a big-time player like Ronnie Stanley back on the team should impact the Ravens positively. I have them going 12-5. Also, the 17-game schedule, I hate it. The records, no one's ever going to go even again with the 17-game schedule at 500. Rip Jeff Fisher. I don't like it. I don't like it at all, but I do like the Ravens this year. I think they're going to win the AFC North. I think it's going to be close. I like the Browns quite a bit as well, but I did have some back and forth games here, and I have the Browns losing a couple close ones, probably, to teams like the Patriots and or the Chargers. So, again, it's less about the games on a game-to-game basis, more so the overall record, but I think the Browns are going to be in that 10-13 win range. It's going to come down to a couple close games where if they win them, they're going to win 13, maybe even 14 games out of 17. And if they lose them, they could go 11-6, 10-7, something like that. I think the Browns at 11-6 is fairly conservative because I think they could end up winning a few more games than that. But I think they're going to be really competitive for that division win. I think it certainly could happen. I like the Browns a lot. I've been on the Browns bandwagon for a while now. I think the Browns are quite good. The Steelers, 9-8. The Steelers are an interesting team. They started off really, really hot last season, 7-0, something like that, but they didn't really play anybody, and then they started to play some better teams down the stretch and lost a lot. And then they didn't show up in the playoffs at all against a super injured Browns team, still lost. I mean, the Steelers are a really wishy-washy team. I think the lack of an offensive line is going to hurt them. I think Big Ben playing like a 40-year-old is going to hurt them. He's just not the player he once was. I know Steelers fans they'll just point to the yards and act like that's the only thing that matters. Big Ben just doesn't have it anymore. I think just like Drew Brees limited what the Saints could do in the past couple of years, Big Ben limits the Steelers in a similar way. He just doesn't have the arm strength anymore and the mobility even to play the quarterback position at a super high level. I don't think he's a bottom 10 QB in the league per se, but I don't think he's top 15 in the league. I'll probably have a quarterback rankings video coming out pretty soon as well. But the Steelers are a team I think are about going to go even. I have them at 9-8. I think they're going to be somewhere around there. The Bengals at 7-10. I think the Bengals are going to take a jump. You have healthy Joe Burrow in year 2. Big ACL injury last year kind of hurt his progression a little bit, and he wasn't all that great. He flashed at times, but his deep ball accuracy was really, really bad. I think the Bengals with a bunch of big acquisitions in free agency, and they're just continuing to build and continuing to grow. I like the Bengals' potential. I still don't think they're ready to even come close to competing for a division title, and I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But I think going 7-10 and taking a big step is probably something that we'll see happen this year. Moving to the AFC South, I really don't think it's going to be that close of a division. I think the Titans are far and away the best team here. I think the Colts at 7-10 kind of hurts me because I like the Colts defense, I really do. But there are major question marks at quarterback, especially if Carson Wentz is out for the year, especially if Quentin Nelson misses significant time. He had a very similar injury to Carson Wentz, right? So the Colts, I like their defense a lot. Their offense really concerns me. And I think the Colts are good enough to where they can get close enough to even, but I really don't think they're going to be a positive record. And I think even with give me wins over the Texans and maybe the Jaguars as well, they could boost that record a little bit, but a little boost to the record isn't going to, move the needle too much. So I think the Colts are going to be comfortably second in the AFC South. And the Jaguars are a big question mark to me. They could win a lot more games than this, honestly, at 5-12. I know they only won, one last year, but I like the addition of Trevor Lawrence, obviously, but it's more than that. The Jaguars made a lot of big acquisitions in the offseason that I think could definitely propel them up a lot. The big question mark is going to be Urban Meyer. How does Urban Meyer coach up this Jaguars team? Because it's a different rodeo than what he's used to in college. It's a different coaching style because you're managing grown men at this point. It's like, I think in college you still have the players with the mentality of like, okay, this coach is a level above us, right? We're looking up to him. He can talk to us like kids, essentially. But in pro football, and we've heard guys talk about this from time to time with different college coaches, it does not work because you have to have a different level of respect for the NFL players who are adults and in some situations older than the coach. Not with Urban Meyer, obviously, but you look at Sean McVay. He is not the oldest player, including oldest coach or oldest team member, including coaches and players on the team. Andrew Whitworth is older than Sean McVay. And you just can't talk to Andrew Whitworth the same way you can talk to a 21-year-old rookie, if that makes sense. So Urban Meyer's coaching philosophy might have to change a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see how the team plays. I think coaching is the most important thing in the NFL. It's why the Patriots were so great for so long, and I think could be very good again this year. It's going to be very interesting to see what the Jaguars do. Their roster looks pretty good. It's really not too bad, but there are some question marks. I think they're going to be around the 3 to 7 win range. Hopefully they surprise and win some more, but you never know. Texans 1-16. I don't think Deshaun Watson's going to play for them. Tyrod Taylor's the starting quarterback, and the roster top to bottom is really bad. I honestly think it's going to be tough for them to win 3 games this year. I think that's probably about their ceiling. Maybe they surprise, win 4 or 5, but I have them at 1 win. And I don't think that's too crazy. We saw the Jags won 1 game last year. Saw them win 1 game. I just don't think the Texans are really particularly good in any one area. I think they're pretty bad in almost every area. I think the bright spot of that team could be the secondary, but it's really not even particularly great. Like, it's okay. Bradley Roby, Justin Reed, brought in Desmond King on a 1-year deal. But you have a lot of question marks on this team. No J.J. Watt there anymore. What's that locker room going to look like? New coach. No big-time quarterback in Deshaun Watson. I think the Texans are going to be really, really bad. I don't think that's too crazy. Moving to the AFC East, I have the Patriots winning the division at 13-4. I have the Bills at 13-4 as well. I think the Patriots are way too good to have what happened to them last year happen again. I think Bill Belichick is the greatest coach in NFL history. I don't think that's too crazy to say. He's been the head coach of the most successful dynasty in the NFL ever, including pre-Super Bowl era. The Patriots have just been on a different level. And they lost Tom Brady. That was big. But last year, the Patriots had a lot of opt-outs, and they had a lot of new additions to the team that just really couldn't mesh as well as he needed to. If you look at Cam Newton coming in, new team, playing quarterback, no offseason, no training camp, no preseason really. It's like, I think it was a tough position for any quarterback to go into, and the Patriots had to change their offense because of it. But now I think after 2020 and now a training camp and preseason, I think the Patriots are going to be a different team, and I think Cam Newton's actually going to be pretty good this year. I'm not sure we see Mac Jones this year. I'm really not. I think the Patriots, with big-time additions of Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry and Matthew Judon on defense and bringing back Kyle Van Noy and getting Dante Hightower back, I think the Patriots are going to be really, really solid. I think they're being severely underrated, and I could see them winning 13 games this year, maybe even more, maybe fewer. That's the way it goes. But I think the Patriots are really good. I think the Bills are really good as well. And if Josh Allen continues to play like he did last year, this team's going to be really, really good. Just got a massive contract. He's going to be working to prove that he is worth all of that money and more. And if the Bills are good and competitive and Josh Allen's a great quarterback like he was last year, he's going to be worth it easily. But it's a tough division. But I think 13-4 is pretty fair, tying with the Patriots. I think they're both very good teams. It's tough to pick for me. Dolphins I have at 9-8. And I think the big thing here is the Dolphins have a pretty tough schedule. And when you see them going against teams like the Bills twice a year and a revamped Patriots team twice a year, and then they have teams like the Ravens on their schedule, and they have teams like the Saints on their schedule who are always tough, and the Titans, I think it's going to be tough for the Dolphins to really win a lot of games this year. I'm not sure they are, and the Bucs too, if we didn't talk about them. I think I think the Dolphins are a team that is a fringe playoff team, and I think they're going to be just like narrowly missing out because of the Patriots being a very tough team to beat. I can see them splitting games with the Patriots pretty easily, but in this particular scenario, I have the Patriots sweeping them this season. The Jets, I have them at 4-13. They just don't have a defense, and I think there will be some growing pains with Zach Wilson. I love Zach Wilson as a prospect. However, I like his potential long-term. And Zach Wilson was a guy at BYU that played a lot of hero ball. That's going to result in a lot more turnovers at the NFL level. So he's going to have to become really good at taking the check down and taking what's there, as opposed to trying to hit a home run every time he comes up to the plate. A little baseball reference there. But I think the Jets, they definitely improved offensively very easily. Big-time weapons. And big-time additions on the offensive line, even with Elijah Vera Tucker. And I love Elijah Moore. I think Elijah Moore is fantastic. Denzel Mims could take a jump. Jamison Crowder in there as well. Like, the Jets could be okay on offense, but their defense is really bad. They didn't really do a whole lot to boost that defense up. You're getting CJ Mosley back. You brought in, I think, one of the most underrated free agent signings in Carl Lawson. I know Corey Davis as well. We're talking about the offense. Signed Corey Davis. I think the Jets' offense is going to be okay this year. Their defense, I think, is really going to let them down. And again, with the tough schedule, same thing with the Dolphins, where they're playing the Titans and the Patriots twice a year, and the Dolphins twice a year, and the Bills twice a year. Those are going to be really, really tough games to win. I have them going 1-5 in the division. First-year head coach in Robert Saleh. Could be some growing pains there as well. I think the Jets have good term potential long term, but I don't think they're ready yet, and they need to improve defensively a lot. Guys could take jumps, you never know, but I think 4-13 is fair. They could get up to maybe 7 wins, but I don't think more than that. AFC West, got the Chiefs going 14-3. I think the Chiefs are really, really good. Don't think that's too crazy. I would put them as a favorite to win the Super Bowl right now. Don't think that's too crazy either. Their defense is really solid, and their offense, obviously, is unbelievable, led by probably the best quarterback in the NFL, and Patrick Mahomes. Again, no spoilers. You're going to have to check out that quarterback rankings video coming up in the channel. Make sure you're subscribed. But the Chiefs are really, really good. They're extremely well-coached and well-rounded. It's going to be tough to beat them. Chargers. The Chargers were tough. First-year head coach in Brandon Staley. I like the Chargers. I do. I like Justin Herbert in year 2. It's going to be interesting to see how the offense changes. I like the Chargers. Again, I think they're going to be a fringe team that it's going to really depend on, do they win the close games? That's going to be the difference between 10-7, maybe even 11-6, or having an 8-win season. So the Chargers, I think, will be in that 8-11 win range. Maybe even get 12. It's weird this year because with the extra game, you probably don't think of the Chargers as a 12-win team, but who knows? With an extra game, that 11-12 could shift. The Raiders I have at 6-11. I don't think the Raiders are all that good, honestly. I wanted the Raiders to be a little bit better than this, but I don't really see a way they could be. And again, pretty tough schedule. It's going to be tough for the Raiders to be extremely competitive. They play in an okay division, nothing crazy, but I don't think they're going to beat the Chiefs twice. I think maybe they steal a game. I had that last year and it happened, but I'm going to have it this year again. I'm not sure that the Raiders are really going to win a ton of games this year. 6-11 does feel a little bit worse than I actually think they're going to be. Like maybe they're more like an 8-win team, but this is just how I have things shaping up. And again, the Raiders are going to have to win the close games because that's the difference between a record closer to the Chargers and where I have them at 6-11. But if the Raiders go 6-11, could this be the end of John Gruden in Las Vegas with the Raiders? I think it certainly could be. I do think the Raiders could end up winning a few more games in this very easily, but 6-11 is kind of what it shaped up to be. I have the Broncos at 5-12. I just don't think the Broncos are all that good. I really don't. I think with Teddy Bridgewater / Drew Lock at quarterback, I think you're putting yourself in a tough spot, and they weren't very good last year, and I think they were better than their record showed last year. And yeah, you're getting Courtland Sutton back, but I don't think the Broncos are in a very good position. I could see them getting up to about 8 wins. I think they maybe even have a higher ceiling than the Raiders, but they're just one of those teams for me where I'm just not super high on them this year. 5-12 feels a little rough. It really does. But I almost would want to move that up to like 7 wins. It's tough though. I mean, because you take away 1 win from the Broncos, you have to give it to somebody else. And listen, things could change. I think the Broncos could definitely win 7 or 8, something like that. And you never know. You never know what's going to happen with injuries and all that. But yeah, 5-12 does seem a little harsh. Moving over to the NFC, I have the Packers at 12-5. I think the Packers are good. I do. And with Aaron Rodgers, I would never really bet against the Packers. But again, it's a pretty tough schedule. A lot of teams have tough schedules, but the Packers in particular playing the Buccaneers, the strong NFC West, the Ravens. It's going to be a tough road for the Packers. So I think 12-5 is fairly conservative for them, but they're a really, really solid team. I think they're going to run away with the NFC North, but they are quite good. I honestly think the Packers at only 4-2 in the division is like a little conservative for sure. I just know how tough some of these divisional games can be. I have the Bears going 8-9. I think they're a fringe, like about 500 team. I know 500 doesn't exist anymore, but I think maybe they'll go 9-8 or 8-9. Maybe they'll win 7 games. They're a team that has been fairly successful playing without a quarterback in Mitch Trubisky. Now that Trubisky's gone, how soon does Justin Fields become the starter? Because he's better than Andy Dalton, probably right away. He's better than Nick Foles. The Bears are an interesting team. They're a tough team to predict. In all honesty, I had a very tough time with them and the Broncos and the Vikings, honestly, who we'll get to in a second. But I just don't think the Bears are all that good, but I definitely don't think they're all that bad. Kind of a weird team. It all kind of hinges on Justin Fields. It's tough to predict the Bears without really knowing who their starting quarterback's going to be. And even if Justin Fields starts, how good is Justin Fields going to be as a rookie in a new system with new responsibilities? Tough to say, tough to say. The Vikings I have going 5-12. It feels a little bit harsh, but I don't think they're a team that's gotten better. I really don't. I think they're a team that is still kind of holding on to Kirk Cousins. They know Kirk Cousins is not really the guy, but that's just kind of who they have right now. He's not the best quarterback. He's not the worst quarterback. He's like, he's Kirk Cousins. You know, I think we all know what Kirk Cousins is. Like, he's maybe slightly above average, but you don't want him to be your franchise quarterback. Their defense, like, isn't anything special, but getting Danielle Hunter back could be big. Look for Justin Jefferson to be awesome again, and Adam Thielen, maybe he's going to regress as he's getting into his 30s a little bit more. I don't know. The Vikings are a tough team. 5-12 seems a little bit harsh. I don't think they're that good, though. I don't know. It's tough. Lions I have going 2-15. I think the Lions suck. I think the Lions fans know that they suck. I think the Lions probably have an idea that they're not going to be very good. 2-15, again, maybe a little bit harsh, but I'm going up and down here, and I'm thinking, who are the Lions really going to beat? I don't believe in Jared Goff as a quarterback. I honestly don't believe in Dan Campbell as a head coach. I think he's just kind of crazy. I don't know how he's actually going to be. I'm not sure if he's got play calling responsibilities or what's happening in Detroit, but I can guarantee you the only way Jared Goff's going to be successful is if he has a coach telling him what to do actively while the play's happening. Pretty much the way it was happening in LA with Sean McVay. I think Jared Goff is just like all arm talent and kind of nothing else. And to play quarterback in the league, I think it's less about the arm and more about what's going on up here. And I kind of don't think Jared Goff has it going on up there. I really don't. And with the rest of the Lions team having nothing really on defense and nothing really at the skill positions on offense, I just don't believe in the Lions. I think they could win more than 2. I don't think they really win more than 5 or 6. So 2-15 is a little bit harsh, but I don't believe in them. The Buccaneers won the Super Bowl last year. I had them taking a bit of a step up, going 12-5. I think they went 11-5 last year. The Bucs are definitely pretty good, and Tom Brady's still playing at an elite level. So it's tough to bet against the Bucs. It really is. Again, they have a tough schedule. They got to play the Saints twice a year, and I really do believe in the Saints. I just think they're so well coached, and they're a pretty deep team overall. But they have the Rams on the schedule. They have Washington football team that's played them pretty well in the past couple meetings, and they have the Bills. It's going to be really interesting. The Patriots, of course. It's going to be really interesting to see what the Bucs do, but I think 12-5 is fair. I think 12-5 is fair for sure. The Saints, I also have going 12-5. I believe in the Saints, and you know what's crazy is to some degree I believe in Jameis Winston. He got LASIK, so maybe now he can actually see he's throwing to the other team and not do that this year. But I think Jameis Winston, former number 1 overall pick, he's a decent player. Just a little bit too turnover happy at times. That's for sure, but he got to sit, learn the system last year. He doesn't really have to do anything super crazy, but just run the offense. And I think he's going to give the Saints more flexibility to what they can do offensively this year. I think the Saints are a pretty good team. The Falcons are kind of weird because the Falcons, I just don't believe in their defense at all. Their offense is pretty good, but they got rid of Julio Jones. And yeah, Calvin Ridley's a beast, but how much of Calvin Ridley being a beast is because Julio Jones took some heat off of him. I think Calvin Ridley's a great player, amazing route runner, good hands, all those things. But how is he going to operate as a receiver 1? Kyle Pitts, the versatile weapon. Merch link is in the description if you want to check out the versatile weapon merch. Kyle Pitts is a big-time addition to this offense as well. I think he can certainly give Matt Ryan a big-time safety blanket, maybe run some 2 tight end sets, which I know they're going to like to do with their offensive coordinator. So it's an interesting situation for the Falcons. I just don't really believe in their ability to win close games because we've seen it, and I've been fooled by the Falcons every year being like, okay, this is the year they're going to be pretty competitive again. And then they're not because they don't win the close games and they don't hold on when they have a lead. The Falcons blow games. It's kind of what they do. It's tough. I feel for the Falcons fans, but I just do not trust the Falcons. So 7-10. Panthers, this was tough for me because I want to believe in the Panthers, but I just don't think they're ready yet. And honestly, I don't think Sam Darnold is the guy. I have him at 4-13. I think getting Christian McCaffrey back is huge. I think the Panthers could certainly win more like 7 games as well, maybe 8 games even. But they have a tough schedule. Again, the Buccaneers twice, the Saints twice. They have to play the Bills and the Dolphins, and the Patriots should be in here somewhere. And, you know, the Cardinals are okay. I just don't believe in this team. And I don't believe in Sam Darnold, I think is what it comes down to. Now, maybe next year, if they can take a step up, I'll believe in the Panthers more. 4 wins is definitely too bad. Like, they're going to win a divisional game. They're not going to go 0-6 in the division, which is what I have them doing right now. They will be better than this, but I don't think by much. I really don't think by much. And it's like, how, if you think they're going to be better than this, why do you have them at 4-13? Sometimes that's just the way it shapes up. Because you could flip this. Panthers could beat the Cowboys. I don't really have a problem with that. Panthers could beat the Falcons. Panthers could beat the Cardinals. Panthers could really beat any of these teams. You just don't know. And again, what it comes down to is I don't trust Sam Darnold. I think they're better than this, but not believing in the quarterback holds them down a lot for me. But 4-13 just seems a bit too harsh. But that's their guy at quarterback. So if Sam Darnold's not it, you don't have anyone else to go to. So they're in a tough spot. The NFC East, I think, is going to be a bloodbath. I think Washington football team might be narrowly the best team. Great defense. I think the addition of Ryan Fitzpatrick actually is huge for them. I think they could be competitive because of that alone. I have them going 9-8. I think the Cowboys are going to go 9-8 too. I think getting Dak Prescott back is massive for them. And even though their defense is lacking, I think their offense should be able to outscore other teams, and they're going to be able to get some wins because of that. So while I don't really think the Cowboys are anything special, I think they're going to compete for that division. Same thing with the Giants. I think the Giants are a fringe team. Their defense played pretty well. I'm a Giants fan. I know what the team is. Getting Saquon Barkley back could be pretty huge. I think their defense overperformed last year. I'm not sure they're going to be that team again this year. So even though I do have them jumping up a couple wins from what they had last year, I don't really think the Giants are anything special. And when you have a team that has to go up against the Chiefs and the Rams, it's going to be tough. Mixing with the Saints, mixing with some really tough divisional games, the Dolphins, the Chargers. They're going to be a lot of close games. It'll be very interesting to see how the NFC East shapes up. I think the Eagles are really bad. I don't believe in Jalen Hurts at quarterback. I don't think their offense is particularly good outside of that. I don't think their defense is that great. First-year head coach Nick Sirianni will be very interesting to see what happens. I honestly don't think the Eagles are that good of a team. I have them at 3-14. It's a little tough. I had the Lions stealing a game over them, which couldn't happen. Potential for that. I mean, the Eagles could beat the Cowboys for sure. I had the Cowboys sweeping them just because I have them winning the first game, and I think they're going to play hard to win in Week 18 to try and make the playoffs. It's a tough spot for the Eagles. I think they're better than 3-14, but I don't think by much. And it's first-year head coach plus Jalen Hurts. I don't really believe in them. And then finishing things out with the NFC West, I have the 49ers going 13-4. I think they're one of the best teams in the league. I really do. I think that Jimmy G's fine at quarterback because Kyle Shanahan's calling the shots. I think their defense is going to be great. I think Trey Lance could take over at some point. I think Trey Lance is going to be good. He's flashed in training camp a lot, and I think the preseason will be very important for him to get reps and develop that way, and then at some point be ready to take over. I would say if you're eyeing a game for Trey Lance to really come in maybe about mid-season and try to put up a really good performance, I think you're eyeing maybe the Jaguars in Week 11 and then versus the Vikings defense versus the at times shoddy Seahawks defense, then the Bengals. This is the stretch where you need to win games, and I think Trey Lance could jump in at some point here and play some poor defenses and then kind of get revved up and ready to go for the playoffs. Tough game against the Titans, and you have Texans, and then you're going to see the Rams, who you could see again in the playoffs. I think the 49ers are a really, really good team, and I think the Rams are as well. I think the Rams have some notable holes. I think getting Matthew Stafford is huge. I think he's much better than Jared Goff, and I think the Rams are going to be pretty competitive in the NFC West this year. I have them at 12-5. They're a good team, and their schedule really isn't anything crazy. They have some softball matchups like the Jaguars and the Texans and the Lions. I think those are 3 near guaranteed wins. You never know. But I think the Rams are going to be very, very good. And I think the Seahawks will be solid as well. It's a really highly competitive NFC West this year, where I think really all 4 teams have a really good shot to win the division. I think the Seahawks are definitely the 3rd best team in this division, though. Again, with injuries and different players performing, you never know. The Seahawks could win the division. I wouldn't be shocked. But I have them finishing 3rd right now, sneaking into the playoffs. Cardinals going 8-9. I just think they play in a really tough division with some tough out-of-division matchups as well, with the Packers and with the Browns as well. It's not going to be an easy road. Titans as well. It's not going to be an easy road for the Cardinals, even with the gimme wins maybe that we talked about earlier with the Jags, Lions, and Texans. Maybe even the Colts as well. I don't know. It's going to be tough for the Cardinals to be highly competitive, but those are my records. We'll move into the wild card. I have the Bills over the Titans, Browns over the Ravens, and Patriots over the Chargers. Just picking the team that I think would win these head-to-head matchups. Rams over football team, Packers over the Saints, and then Buccaneers over the Seahawks. In the divisional, Bills over the Patriots. I went back and forth on that one, but I think the Bills are going to be slightly better than the Patriots at this point in the year. Chiefs over the Browns. I can't really pick against the Chiefs. Packers over the Bucks. Nice little rematch here. I think the Packers get it done this time, and I think the 49ers beat the Rams. I think they're a better team. And let's just say Trey Lance is balling out at this point the way you might expect him to. It's going to be a really tough offense to stop. Trey Lance fits the offense so perfectly. It's ridiculous. Gives Kyle Shanahan a huge weapon on the ground as well. I think the Chiefs would beat the Bills straight up. I just think they're the better team. And then I have the Packers over the 49ers, making a really fun Super Bowl, in my opinion, which is Packers-Chiefs. And I do have the Chiefs coming out on top. Again, injuries and COVID and so many different other variables are going to change a lot of these records. But this is pretty much where I think these teams are going to fall in their own division. Like, give or take one spot, pretty much. So I like it. It's not perfect. It's not going to be perfect, but it's pretty much what I think is going to happen. So let me know how stupid I am in the comments section below because your team didn't go undefeated. Hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed already, and I will see you in the next one. Take it easy.
I hit it at the park, bend bones. See me high step to the end zone. My life like a game, Nintendo. Playing with the best, let them know. Get off the track, the train's coming through. Yeah, promise you get in my way, then you best believe I'ma just run over you. Yeah, yeah. Papa turn taking it back to the house. Defensive joke, I'm laughing so loud. Speed burst good.